It's like, I just, I asked you,
Oh, please, yeah.
yeah, and then we can all share.
I can maybe.
Oh, I see. Not sticking, you didn't really take that.
Oh, maybe it should have.
It's a reinforced one, John. Yeah. How cool is that? That is one thing. Oh, yes. Consider that. The farmers. We still do the fire, but also the involved. But then there's also space for other things. That's chasing.
Oh, for instance.
Look at how this goes to the red. This is probably like the previous for the nexus, so there's kind of really see it. It's like, look at just what it yours. Right. I did that.
Alrighty, so we can just give a quick presentation, go over a few items. The way this presentation is gonna kind of work is that we're gonna kind of just go over the 3 designs, and then we're gonna go over all these posters. We're gonna go systematically through each poster so the people online can be able to view these posters and comment as well. So with that, thank you guys for making the time to come to this roundtable meeting. This is kind of specifically about inclusivity and how we can make these playground improvements as inclusive as possible in this playground. So we really appreciate the time you guys have carved out on this project for a long weekend to come and meet with us. We really appreciate that. Next slide, please. So obviously, you guys all know me pretty well. John Browning-Camp, project manager for this, with me, Louisa, if you want to.
Sure, I'm Louisa Olvera. I'm the Director of Public Space and Urban Forestry.
So,
Estella Regana, also in Public Space and Urban Forestry, here helping with the tech and making sure that the folks online are represented equally in this meeting space.
thank you, Stella. And then obviously ways that you can stay connected. Our Summer Voice page is the best way to stay connected. And then you can also follow our Instagram page, Somerville Parks, and then you can always email me, which you can find that on the Summer Voice page, but jbronick@somervillema.gov. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
So while we're setting this up, I think we may, because there's a small number, we want to go around and introduce ourselves, also with folks online. This school, just as a framework, this is the last of Somerville's schoolyards that hasn't had a brand new explosion of delight, as we call it. You know, when we grew up, there was a lot of blacktop, and now we have some really state-of-the-art, beautiful schoolyards that also function as community open spaces and playgrounds. This will be the first inclusive playground, and John is going to say a little bit more about what that is. It is important to remember that it is a schoolyard first, and so because of that, during the school day, it's being used by the students, we've spent a lot of time with the teachers trying to understand their needs, and then also a community park. So we kind of have to balance those, but our main function is to design something that's going to work for the school, because that's what this building is. John has done a lot of engagement throughout this process. These are some of all of the events that he's been at, and I know because he texts so often, like, I'm at the Kennedy, I'm at the Kennedy, I'm at the Kennedy. So there's been a lot of focus on getting to know the teachers and the special ed teachers, trying to understand the physical needs of all children, including children that have disabilities that are not seen, which is, another challenging aspect of this. Family and community events, he's been tabling at numerous events where families are coming to the school. And we've had one community meeting. We are having another one. I can't remember the week.
The last week
of February. And then there's been 2 surveys that have been going out to try to reach other folks who want to give their opinion. And in addition to that, he's also been having to get the funding. And we are really happy to announce that the Community Preservation Act voted to give us the money for this project. So that is wonderful. And that has been a lot of work on John's part as well. Today, we, we want to have this listening session to really understand for parents and caregivers with children that have disabilities, what their needs are, and to have you look at different playground equipment, because we know that there were preferences and people would like to contribute their lived experience to help with it. So John is going to lead us through a series of events to try to get more information on that. And at the end of this, we will talk about like when will we have final design and what the timeline is, because what we're trying to do is move to construction this summer so that we can get on it and have it done. Typically, parks take about 3 years. I know this one, for those of you on the original CPA ask, is much longer than that, but we suspect that the actual construction will be 3 seasons. And by that, summer, spring, fall, usually we cannot construct anything in the winter, although lately it's been a lot longer than normal. So I just want to make sure that everyone online is able to hear us. And I want to recognize Councilor Raymond Zage, who is online, and also Councilor Clingan is here. And we have a couple of more people who just joined us, so we'll just get settled in, and then John will, and folks online, you will also have an ability to participate. John will.
I feel like it would be better than here, Harry, just be careful, there's a wire on the ground on this page, so.
He's forewarned.
It is.
You can sit right here.
Yep, and everyone online can hear.
Wonderful. Next slide, please. So what is inclusive play? I've gone over this a few times, but there's a few different levels of inclusive play. Inclusive play is kind of the highest standard. So first, there is an accessible use. So that's just meeting the ADA standard law. So there's a few minimum criteria for that. It doesn't really go that far. The second level of kind of inclusive play is universal design, and that tries to meet the needs of everyone with physical limitations. And then inclusive design goes above universal design and recognizes everyone right to fully participate and contribute in meaningful play and experiences. So that's being able to contribute to be a part of every aspect of the playground itself. So this is what inclusive play is. Next slide.
Let's just do a check that everyone online can hear, and if I can ask you, John, to slow down just a little bit.
Of course,
because,
sorry, I do. Sorry.
Yep, people could hear.
Okay, great.
Slowing down would be really helpful, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Too much coffee.
Yeah, I do that. Slow down with that. So I'm just gonna quickly go or slowly go through our designs and our 3 plans that we proposed. Through our survey, there was an overwhelming support for one of the plans, but throughout that, there's obviously elements of each design that are going to be incorporated into that one preferred design to kind of meet the needs of everything. So our first option is option A. And I created some alt text that is next to each of the plans that are here, but I'll just read the description as well. So Plan A emphasizes imaginative and exploratory play over athletic programming. The design centers on a large multi-use play area with athletic elements located along the perimeter. Key features include a half basketball court, varied landforms, ramps leading to a hillside slide, a multi-level play structure, swings, and integrated seating. Shade is provided primarily through trees with a supplemental shade structure where needed. Overall, this option creates a nature-forward play environment with a strong focus on play structures and informal movement. So plan option B, Plan B strikes a balance between athletic activity and play-based experiences. The layout includes one full basketball court alongside a large central play area, with open space located near the building and along the left side of the site. Seating is thoughtfully distributed throughout, with shade provided mostly by formal shade structures than trees. Unique concrete and wood seating elements double as informal play features, allowing children to climb, sit, or gather. Multiple play structures are connected by ramps, pathways, and bridges. complemented by an obstacle course that engages active play and exploration. And then Plan C is, Plan C places a strong emphasis on active sports and movement. The design includes one full basketball court and one half court, surrounded by a large bay of swings and a designated wall ball area. Additional elements include a smaller play structure, an obstacle course, and a large open space for free play and running. Seating and an outdoor classroom are nestled under the existing trees, providing shade gathering areas. Circulation pathways connect all structures and courts, promoting continuous movement and easy access throughout the playground. If you go back one slide, so from our survey, Plan B was kind of the most preferred option. It got more than 50% of the respondents favoring this one out of 250 responses. But the other two options were split 25%. So there's obviously elements that need to be incorporated from all of the designs into this one preferred option.
If I can just add one thing also, when we see these drawings, the what you see there, those renderings, they have not been chosen. We've not yet chosen the play equipment. We've chosen kind of a type of play equipment, and that's what John has assembled here to get more input. It's really more to help with figuring out the layout and then to guide the conversations about which playground pieces are we going to choose. We also have recently just had a question about, or had a discussion about the basketball court and being able to plow it in the winter. Sorry, words escaping me, because with all of these playground equipment, they need a fall zone, and that usually is done with the poured in place rubber, and that cannot be plowed. That's one of the things that we know about the schoolyards. Everyone wants the rubber surfacing, but then it's not something that can be plowed without damage. So if we at least had the basketball court, we could have some area that doesn't have rubber surfacing during the winter.
Now, before I jump into our next activity, does anyone have any questions about the designs? Need any clarification about any of these three plans?
Could you just explain the best way to sort of look at these things and when to give feedback, if it's when it's up, or if you would prefer, you know, if you want to say, hey, give me feedback now when you'd like it, just so I don't feel like I'm interrupting.
Yeah, no. So right now, we've reviewed the plans. If you have comments specifically about the plans and not about the playground features, happy to take those comments. Our next activity that we're going to jump into is, like Louisa said, we haven't picked the playground elements yet. So that's kind of what this meeting is about, is to try and figure out what elements work, what elements don't work, what aspects of the elements don't work, and what are kind of pinch points. So if you have any comments about these three plans before we dive into the playground structures, I'm happy to have that conversation now.
Can you just point out on option B where the ball wall is? I think you mentioned it, but I couldn't find the. I didn't see.
But I'll use, so it's this wall that extends. So Harriet, it is along the back wall located on Sarwell Street. And there's currently a wall that extends from the transformer out. And we're looking to extend that wall a bit further to kind of create a sense of enclosure in that basketball court and allow kids to kind of contain all of the ball throwing into one designated area of the playground.
You mentioned it on C though. I couldn't see.
Oh, on C.
Yeah.
That's right.
So C would be along this area here as well as
Okay.
integrated, like, so you can see bump outs here. So the idea here is it would be a wall ball basketball court and soccer net kind of
Okay.
incorporated into one. And we did hear those comments about basketball courts, making sure that the basketball nets are adjustable for anyone of different heights or different needs. That is something that would be easily incorporated in this design. Any other questions? Yes.
Oh, is there any change to the parking lot?
Yes, so I don't want to talk too much about the parking lot on this because we're focused on the playground elements, but the parking lot is being reconfigured. We're making sure we meet all the ADA needs for the bus drop off for persons who need to drop off their children there. But we are removing 15 out of 43 of those parking spaces to be able to expand the playground.
Oh, wow, okay. Now, something that would have been useful for me, but I didn't get to ask about this is, if it were possible to make the plans transparent so that we can see it overlaid over the existing layout?
Of course, if you go, and this, Estella, might be helpful to drop the Summer Voice page into the Zoom chat, but if you go onto our Summer Voice page, you can see our last community meeting. If you download that PDF presentation, I think about 40 slides in, there is a plan of the parking lot, and the larger area, and in red, you'll see the existing layout of the parking lot, and then in gray, blue, green, and black is the proposed design, so you can kind of see how much space we're gaining.
Thank you.
Are there any online questions?
None so far.
Okay.
Did you say that, Plan B is what you're looking at?
Plan B was the most preferred, because it did kind of strike that balance between athletic play and structure play. So that was kind of one of the main emphases of why people were interested in it, because it did find that nice balance of kind of both needs, as well as creating shading and treatment.
And I know we're gonna talk about the elements that are going in, but my biggest feedback is the consistency of the ground.
Mhm.
So that, there aren't areas where, you know, trees can come underneath the surfacing, or you're going from pavers to rubber things, and things sink and move. Is it
Right.
one continuous product with the colors is wonderful?
Mhm.
And when you have straight lines that, you know, turn at right angles, wheels don't turn at right angles, so you're
Yes.
able to make them continuously round.
Mhm.
And I know the minimum is 36,
Mhm.
but what that doesn't allow is if a child, an individual is using something, an adult that's 36 wide,
Mhm.
someone comes running at them to be on the same pave. And I
Right.
don't know if making it wider in some areas is possible, but not in all. Just feedback on the pathways.
Great, thank you for those notes. We'll definitely consider those. I know DPW did say something about hard corners and boarding place is usually a weak point. So those rounded edges are definitely something that we'll have to incorporate here.
It's tough for wheels. They just don't turn.
Yeah.
And strollers sometimes,
Yes,
so.
exactly. Yes, that is something we can definitely incorporate. Any other questions on the plans before we dive into those?
And you did such a nice job of explaining the kind of hillside play or the
Yeah.
possibility for hillside play. Would you just touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah,
for the
right there.
listeners?
Yes, can you go to option A? So in this plan, you'll see that.
repeat the question again?
Yes, so I was speaking with Nicole before the meeting started, and she was asking for some clarifying questions about landform changes and if there's any structures that will ramp up to a hillside or some type of platform that kids can kind of ramp up to get to that platform and then take a ramp or a bridge onto a play structure. So on our plans, which Estella's doing a wonderful job highlighting, there's some shaded areas where you can see landform changes, and specifically, you can see that there's a shaded area here where the idea is that this pathway kind of slopes up and gets you onto this platform in which there will be embankment slides and bridges that kind of bring you on to the play elements. In one of the designs that one of the play structures we'll look at shortly, it's a perfect example of kind of what these embankment slides and embankment bridges look like.
So John, so you haven't officially announced which one of these schemes you're going with, but it sounds like it's pretty much been voted on and decided, or?
Well, there's a preference for one option. We always like to throw 3 schematic designs out to people because there's obviously elements that from each design that want to be incorporated. Option B kind of met a lot of those needs via elements, not specifically its arrangement. But like Nicole was highlighting, there has been some ask for kind of embankment play, embankment slides, structures that kind of bridge off from that. It's things that we can kind of incorporate at this time in the design, but just kind of having that flexibility, but still knowing what we need to incorporate in the space. Obviously conversations with DPW, they would like basketball court closer to the roadway so that it's easier for plowing, those kind of conversations. So it might look different, but it might still have a lot of the same aspects and elements incorporated in it.
I know we talked on Tuesday about workshops with the students. Do you have a date set for those, or do you know when it's coming in times of?
Oh, sorry about that, folks. Yeah, it froze for everyone for a moment, but can you all, great, thank you. So what John referenced, and I can share the screen, is that we are now going to ask folks to provide feedback on some of the specific elements themselves. And so
So our first topic is about ramping up structures. In this design, you can see a lot of different structures, a lot of different variation from them. So what we're trying to get at is what works or what doesn't work specifically. Right. You can see there's the first image is hillside embankment. So kids will take a ADA accessible pathway out to the top of this embankment, and then they are allowed to get on the bridge that gets them to the platform. And then there's a slide with, it's not as traditional.
I think 10 folks
we're
online hear
missing.
John.
If not, we can move that PowerPoint.
I think also we're missing this, this one, John, this.
Ramping.
It's in, it should be in there. It might not be in.
Is it this?
So it's embankment,
More.
This.
one more.
There we go.
Ah,
Okay,
So,
now can people online hear? Just a second.
it's a little muffled.
okay. I will stand over here.
Okay, let's try that.
A little bit louder. So in that image, you can see that it doesn't cover standard transfer platform slides. So one question I have is, would a slide similar to the slide in image one work?
The blue top left slide.
Yes. So this,
A wider amount.
this slide, you see how it has a marking and then more of a flat side versus in another image, we'll see they have a standard transfer platform. That's kind of flat. Yes, this slide isn't our standard transfer platform slides.
Yeah.
And so what we're wondering is, does some slide like this work? Or does it need to be a standard transfer platform like this? Or this one, or this?
Itself, it looks like it kind of bubbles up more.
And that's really the idea, is provides a space that allows children to and their caregivers to then bring the chair up and easily just on the slide. Other playground features like option 2, you can see it's actually a Virtual schoolyard where it has an ADA accessible ramp that brings you up to the second platform. But there's a spider line slide. And my question is, do slides like this work as well? These are kind of, there's a lot of pinch points. Yes.
And then, so these two images were really focused on slides versus orientation features versus the remaining four are all features. So they start on a flat surface and all of the elevation gain occurs on the platform and playground feature itself. So these obviously take a lot more space in the playground, but they are very easy to install and very easy to incorporate in our playgrounds. And something that does vary. There's some that have ramps only to the first floor of the structure. There's some ramps that go throughout the entire structure. There's some ramps that are less ramps and more of like plastic bridges. And so finding out like how do these structures work for everyone.
I would say just to add another comment back about the slides that we usually saw that in inclusion, parents are two people to do this, one person do that, and maybe with the life things, I was thankful. So we can figure out how to do that. And it would look no different than someone who doesn't have a job that means one play after that or and the same for elements like the ramps, just being that I would like if everything is accessible on some type of learning surface, it's a lot, I think in a smaller space and budget, but being able to just get to the same area as what's here is very really amazing. I think it's learning for all the kids to do that. To the conclusion that it doesn't look
right,
but everybody can access and the target. She is saying, but so I think those are one of the examples, just my opinion. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. There's no random option on it at all.
There is one ramp that gets you to the first platform, but then there's kind of that plastic bridge structure that does start to feel like a mirror. And I'm wondering if you go on to the playground manufacturer's website, they say that this is a fully inclusive play feature, but I do have questions about how inclusive is something like that. So that's kind of like my question I have with that. There's obviously monkey bars, people go at a high level, so that can becomes complex and it starts to make me question if that actually is. So
That's why I see it really has the component to access. That's an increased what the playground has makes it playground. That's fair.
yes, the thing is that everyone is by as inclusive development. It's just that really it's just this one structure and the one. Right, exactly. And there's questions about how it fits that structure. So this is my final answer. Elements with. Yes.
Okay, so they can access the slide, and there's also hiding features on the side.
Right, exactly. So there's like a lot of finding wall and elements, but it still feels like it seems like it's kind of meeting a lot of his needs, but we want our colleagues like, what is the missing and what are the lessons learned from this place structure?
But access to and regional slide is that still down as well. I'm trying to work this out as we look at our options and
When I was saying that, I was kind of thinking as the structure as a whole versus like all the other elements in the playground or kind of those class inclusive.
And we have a comment from someone online. Jessica Adams says that she's very happy to see so many ramp options here. Ramps are so important to so many populations, from wheelchair users to kids with sensory processing issues who don't do very well with stairs or running around. A lot of times for those SPD kids, they just come off as clumsy, but really there's more. And ramps like these can go so far in keeping them and all sorts of kids safe and involved with their peers. So thank you.
Sometimes things that she, what we may be thinking of, not really, but building up a lot of time for someone who's in English, could beneficial.
Right.
I'm thinking of like preschool and adults who are now.
Yes, and we'll see in some of the other play features that there is kind of questions about those type of structure, that when you put them at a lower level and then a higher level, and kind of have them run parallel together. Knowing that maybe we can flip to the next poster unless anyone else has any comments.
Yep.
So,
There's another comment online from, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but Shaylee, and they're saying it's hard to tell in some of these pictures, but it's important for caregivers to be able to access the structures as the kids play with them.
yeah.
I do like that some of the embankment platform structures, because I know sometimes her physical therapist will use these structures to help her build strength, etc. However, I also think ramps are great from personal experiences. Sometimes we have not great mobility days, but can still let her play.
Thank you. And yes, understood. I know Principal Marshall mentioned also don't want a lot of structures where they have kind of playing and go out to get to the child that's easy to help. So it is definitely important to make sure that we can access every other.
Before you move along, are there any other questions or comments from the online folks?
Doesn't look like it. I don't see any hands raised.
And so I do apologize.
No, it's fine. I'm happy to, yeah, I can.
So we're now moving to sensory play. So there's a lot of different elements, included in sensory play, different musical, things like binoculars, there's telephone, devices, there's sensory exclusion zones, so it's just like these nests and kind of single occupancy, structures. And then there's also a lot of elements that we can easily include into the structures themselves. So in here, it's kind of a like tic-tac-toe game that's incorporated in one. It's a simple game, but it just shows that there's so many elements that we can easily embed into the structures themselves, at different levels. This binocular item is also on platform, that kids can use, that lets them look over the field, things that we can easily incorporate. So I guess my question to you all is, has there been any sensory play that has worked well and that hasn't worked well? Are there kind of elements that people are interested in seeing be able to work here?
For by design. Different things right. Musical.
Yeah.
And someone who's shorter with the pieces at the bottom and someone who's taller at the top, the same as something. This, if an item fits multiple ages. We would love to be.
Yeah.
But I think we'll get to all of them.
Well, luckily, and like I said, we can easily incorporate the content by elements. So I know there's been we've done the nonverbal communication boards and other playgrounds. So it's just things like it's easily do in this playground on play features. If that's something that will seem successful at other playgrounds, things like those.
You know, I was like, very almost, but it's like, along the, yeah, like along the ramp, would be like, essentially. And I think where the product is through, or say, fields.
Even things like I spy, like finding and birds or things like those.
And we're getting a few more comments online and a question from Jessica Adams. Is there a way to make ground level musical instruments combine with the platform structure sensory play options? It seems like those could be an easy win and possibly save costs as opposed to making them separate entities.
Yes.
Um,
If these combine those, definitely save some money.
And then a next comment is that they're big fans of musical instruments at various playgrounds. The nests seem interesting and something they haven't seen before in area playgrounds, but it would be good to know if or how well these are received in other communities.
Yes, we can do some more research on that. Obviously, the nests are a pretty wild but fun feature. I don't know what that in playgrounds in my career. We can definitely find one. Louisa.
Yeah, this is Louisa. I have a question specifically to caretakers of children that may have some emotional dysregulation and what helps to calm them down. And the nest structure, for example, was something that we thought could be helpful. You know, sometimes kids need to be alone or feel a little bit enclosed. And wondering for any of you that have that experience, if that is something helpful, if there are other things that are helpful, like throwing a ball at the wall or doing, I know from our research, some rhythmic stuff can help to calm the nervous system. That's the, you know, the disabilities that we can't see are the ones that we would really love to hear more about. So if anybody hears, you know, thinks of an idea, please tell us. You know, we thought maybe the nest could be something that could help a kid, you know, bring their nervous system down. So please let us know if you have other ideas or have seen anything that works.
This is Mary, I have a question about the nest. What sort of materials can you make it out of that can be durable, washable, whatever?
Yeah, so some types of plastic, metal, there are some types of wood that are stronger than black locust. That we could explore, obviously, with the financial concern of splintering and degradation, but black locust does last for a very long time. So a lot of clay structures, they now have a naturalistic version of it, but then you go black locust timber. So I think those would be the materials that we would explore.
I was just gonna, Kristen, I was just gonna say, the other seclusion area looks interesting, but it also looks like, how big is it? Cause it looks like something that would be immediately climbed from the outside as well. Is it supposed to be? Is it?
I
Is that
mean,
part of the
kids will play it
structure?
whatever way they want to play.
Okay.
So now that you point that out, yes, I would easily see what that's good. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it wouldn't be that.
And it could be the best, but if its purpose is to be sensory exclusion, and then you're being swarmed from all angles. I would want someone who is looking for the sensory exclusion area to comment on that aspect of it, because when I see it, I think. There's a structure in the top lot right now that is nets, which it's very fun to climb to the top and then slide down the pole. So. I just feel like that would be immediately fine.
And this is why we're having this meeting.
Okay.
Right, and to that effect, someone online, Samantha Steiner says, on the emotional regulation front, my kids do need and benefit from spaces that can be away from commotion. So somewhere to escape the sometimes overwhelming sensory environment.
And there are some areas that seem wonderful locations along the playground. There's kind of like a big corner in Ocean where basketball court lies. That are kind of more side areas that we have some of our kids can live over there. So you have the location.
Is there multiple recess times or is it one? How, like at the different times, how? Yeah. Just curious.
John's been a playground monitor for a long time, so he'll know.
Just gives me.
So hi, I'm Francesca. I'm so the fun playground is really customer breaks and really communicate. The 9-year-olds to 4. We have a separate playground that is part of it. So for us looking at this, we will We are looking at it for our older children. And, no, it depends on the grade. So it's the same thing that if they are in the pre-K through six, they'll be able to have law. And if they're in third and eighth grade, they'll be law. So it depends on their age. Yeah, and so right now there's very few on campus. And kids are very creative. So with the recess, it does run in the top lot about like 11:30. But then we're still groups, but it's a continual groups, different grades, going through. They are standard motion together, like six, eight, the other by year is scheduled to be and so it just depends. The scheduling of that data and part of the yeah, and so right now we have a lot of people who are sixth grade, so they kind of have their own time as opposed to being at the seventh and eighth grade. Just because they're how many kids at one time yeah.
8-0.
What's the square footage?
I believe it's 8,000 square feet right now. This room is probably
It's like a 15 by 20, 300.
a sixth of the playground space.
It's 300 square feet.
30 by 20.
It is pretty much 2 basketball courts with bleachers surrounding them. That's the space of the playground right now.
How many playground monitors are out with the children at a time? For 80 kids.
Great, depending.
Okay.
Some groups have a little more.
Any other questions on this one before we move to the next?
Jen Stevens wants to add that during after school, there are tons of kids on there doing everything from picking up little bits of asphalt to playing Foursquare to seeking sun or shade, some playing with balls, some who gravitate to the edges. And then Sam Steiner also wants to add that sensory play that isn't just music or noisy would be great as well. There's things that spin, have beads in them, something like that would be really cool as well. Those kinds of visual and tactical sensory experiences can be really regulating for some kids. And there was also a previous comment about different textures on the site.
Thank you. So Stella, we're gonna switch over to the swimming board.
Yep.
No more questions online?
So with our swings, obviously we can fit a certain array of amount of swings. We can do a 2-bay, 4-bay, 6-bay type of swings, but there's many different types of swings, especially when you start to look at inclusive play and just what type of swings and like that. So on this, you'll see a bunch of different. And we really want to know what swings work and what swings don't. Obviously, you'll see in one of these pictures, it is the bottom middle one is the swings that will be installed at a few of our different playgrounds recently. But you'll see a lot of different varieties of swings. So the first swing is similar to the swing that we installed, but instead of a slanting seat, it's a flat seat. So instead of cradling you kind of sit and you're upright in it. Second swing is a nest swing, so it's pretty much a saucer disc with netting in it that multiple kids can swing on. The third option is a fully flush wheelchair swing. So the idea here is that they can wheel onto it, lock into place, and then they can be kind of swayed back and forth. The fourth option is a companion type swing. So there's 2 swing seats. And one is that kind of basket swing where you can be locked in. And the other one is kind of more just a bell swing. And 2 kids can kind of swing together. It allows one of the kids to be the main swinger, whereas the other kid can kind of just sit right under the basket. Like I said before, there's our standard hard backs, and cradling ADA swing. And then our final option is kind of a hammock swing. It's similar to the nest swing, but instead of it being shaped like a disc, it is shaped more like. So, what are these swings for, and what are these swings? What are the pinch points and what are these?
I have a question about the companion swing. What is the options like for the ADA swing? See how it has like the different kind of effect in the front. Or is there a way that can be incorporated in?
Yes,
something like
totally.
that?
Yes, exactly.
And
And this,
match kind of thing.
yeah, and you'll see in this picture, it's more common swing. There are older swings as well.
I think that's like, I mean, personal preference, I think that's a great option.
Because it kind of combines the like including everyone.
Yes, exactly.
Everyone's a part of it.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
There are some comments.
Yep.
From the Zoom.
Yes, can the wheelchair swings be used by non-wheelchair kids? I think it would be really powerful to have the swing that wheelchair users could use as well as abled kids.
Yes, and that fully wheelchair swing, you can see there's one person that's locked in, and then on the other side, you can see a bench that's sitting there, with a person sitting in it. So that's kind of the idea that one person is kind of moving the swing, whereas the other person is sitting the swing.
And another comment that durability and flexibility to be used safely by teenage-sized children is also key, because whatever's chosen, adult-sized children will use these daily and likely not as intended by design. And then another question from Jessica, are wheelchair users able to use and access the hammock swings as well? Is the flush wheelchair swing more of a glider, and is there a possibility to make a companion swing with a wheelchair swing?
So first question about the hammock swing, the vendors do say that that is accessible, but I do have some hesitation looking at that. So I put it on here as a question to see, if anyone factors with the swing and how well it works. It does kind of have that, cradling effect, which don't see really good nor in it. So it can be a good option, but I do question how it works. And you know, the way you want to.
Is the flush wheelchair swing more of a glider?
Yes, it is.
And the third is there a possibility to make a companion swing with a wheelchair swing?
Just I'll have to look into that and get back to you. I'm not entirely sure. I can't think of it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Those three.
Yeah, it's right out there. And it's really not- I have a really good degree with my fashion.
Yeah, I believe the special process thing is one in the Walton playground. I really have to do that. And it's great. I'm sitting in the playground.
Look like the companion swing is good in the sense that it's, two can go,
Right.
so it's like more.
More
fun.
Yeah, exactly, which is kind of a concern with the design. The Vegas 6 swings, you're now using a fourth of the entire playground, full 6. Just to say, how much space I want, maybe not just 6 kids, but a limited amount of kids and 6 allocation doesn't correct the right. Everyone needs the space for that.
And Jen Stevens online, sorry, wants to add that they remember a nest swing at Winter Hill that was not very accessible to wheelchair kids, that the hammock swing would rely on someone being able to lift them in and out, which may not be possible for bigger or fragile kids.
I just wonder how we have a lot of. Things that use the buildings. I use that and things that don't use that.
Right.
Right, and so I just wondered if you go rider swing. Or if you go rider swing or even PTA swing or something like that.
Right. Yeah. No, I do try to stay with that because you don't make sure everything's. So feel like they have to use this object.
Right.
There was those at the pirate playground on, in Harvard and Cambridge Common. I feel like I'm saying something. Okay, I feel like I've seen one and I was wondering, and that's so close to see how it's used by other families. I wanna say at the one that has the pirate ship on Mass Ave. I would not, I just don't have the time. Okay, it might just, I'm just wondering if anybody can do.
I will take a look at that.
My experience is that like.
No.
We typically don't see, like, we don't need it, but. Oh. Yeah.
Just want to give Fiona, Ian, if you guys have any comments, we'd love to hear from you.
I'm gonna, I think I didn't, but, was saying, what I see is a little harder to use, especially to the wall space. It's looking for different pieces, this is taking some. So like a variety, instead of multiple, I think it would be easier to something. I didn't hear about the fun filter, so I think it would be interesting, and I haven't personally spent much of the, that, especially since, next week, quite a lot of it, I think it's something purposely meant to have multiple people on it, and it can be used correctly rather than like overflowing. Right. That's so far.
Jesse, so just in terms of functionality and, the flush wheelchair swing, for instance, if, one of the things that we do is we create a really cool park, but sometimes they're on some of the other things I have to be custom, but like, for instance, at the Chuck and Harris Park, when that slide goes offline, it's offline for like 6 months, because you have to. So would DPW or would or the manufacturer, if say some kids overnight with a break, their flush wheelchair swing, I don't wanna see it be out for like months at a time, and kids are like, what happened? On Monday, and swing broke, and you get up and running for a long time. Do you have any sense of what that sort of situation would look like in terms of, I think it would be stuff?
Yeah, so this is Louisa. We kind of secretly have undershirts that say we can't have nice things on them. Because we're constantly buying the nicest things and then they're sometimes vandalized, which is really unfortunate because it's not the population who uses them. We do try to get away from custom things because then you have to custom fix them. Unfortunately, there are sometimes things that are in disrepair or vandalized, and then they have to be closed down. We have to order the repair parts. We work pretty collaboratively with DPW to do that, but there's no way, to, when something is broken, to fix it immediately. There's a pretty long lead time on playground equipment in general, which is also one of the reasons we need to get into construction. And since COVID, we've never really recovered. So it's usually at least like a 12-week fix when something goes wrong. Sometimes that can be a bolt or a screw, but there's really not a way around that, unfortunately. But the most important thing is that you're notified as soon as that happens. Yeah.
Plus, I mean, this looks pretty variable, I don't know how many people are there, but maybe that
Right. Yes, so those are kind of conversations that I'll always have with DPW. Obviously, there's some standing limits that they have a little bit more responsibility too, so looking at stuff. But if they didn't spend, it's still fine, you can balance of those limits are.
We work pretty closely with DPW on, you know, understanding what's broken, how we can help to hunt down the manufacturer and get them fixed, but it does take time. We can have nice things.
I know we're not costing what I probably comes from manufacturer, but it's how in high renovate that something that's all.
Well, it's kind of just like procurement, as I say, it's like, it's project line. Once DPW is like, this is the whole best for okay. We need this product, and it's basically. So that's kind of it.
The Councilor Klingen's question, these are not custom in that, you know, they're in a brochure, they're done by a company. It's not like the designer is designing something that is being made. So we can get them fixed. It just takes time and money.
I was trying to bring up a point of starting bring out
Yes.
the fact that we also, you know, we only get some, but hopefully you were to get from it. Great. Well, I think that, you know, as long as we know what we're getting, that's how we'll do it. Right. That was time.
And one big thing that we've been working on with DPW for the parks, which is like when the park opens, we have a repair piece of them. Yeah, so the missing post that thing have the big ones and we have. So. Being cognizant of time, I think we should move over to ground elements, which I was going to touch on that spinning element, kind of what's going where ground elements leads to a giant category for play elements. There's many different elements to it. So I think hearing what ground elements has worked in other playgrounds for you all is really crucial. I threw a variety of different ground elements on the floor for you all to kind of review. So I'd love to get your feedback on them. Things like a little bowl that kind of spins around where a kid can kind of sit in and another kid can come up and spin them in that bowl. There's other structures like an board where kids can kind of climb into. There's a platform where they can be inside the structure while they're kind of climbing up around it. There's things like seesaws that are accessible where you can kind of go onto the platform, lock it in, and then other things can so on your side, you on the other side, and a seesaw back and forth. There are carousels, some that are looped and flush with the ground, some that can sit on an axle and sit up in the arc root. And then there's some other types of sensory plays, kind of stations that we're exploring here. So I'd love to get your opinions on this and what in other parts of the playground should be for this. This is the area where we can place a lot of different elements in ways of so that it should be supported.
The little skinny chair, it's not quite a little, but it's like a chair, that put a little in, if I did something as well.
Right.
That's, is the best. So.
And for the like second, she can sit in it, but she can also wheel up and space one out from the chair.
You'll be more than this is oh, I asked you what you for done this, I don't know how safe it is, but sometimes should sit like at the base of it.
Yeah.
Which is much part of that, but I'm like, if there's a people farming. Like, is that a concern? I mean, that's never happened to us.
I think the thought with a structure like this is there's one portion that's open to netting, so you can kind of go into it and you can try to know. That's the whole thing that they come around and not on. But it's a minimum point about like that. They can find the place it's gonna slip and send them to the structure and It's gonna be sitting there. Yeah, yes.
Objects that are, have very little, the word fix around them. So you can easily kind of fit them in between the larger play structures that have spaces that you can't really program anything in. Any other thoughts, concerns on these, any successful ground governance that have worked for you? Also, if you guys see any at playgrounds, feel free to always see them.
Does the seesaw have, is there like a ramp to get off and on?
Yeah, it's a little hard to see, but the idea is that one side always leans down, so it's preferred, it's weighted on one side, and that's the side where you can flush ramp into it and then lock it. Very good.
It'd be interesting because I remember as a child playing on seesaws, you know, depending on the weight of the child, you know,
Right.
when you can use your legs, if it's a big person, then you're gonna say, way at the end, and hopefully they'll come a little closer to the middle, so you can lift them up. So I'm not sure, will the track have different spots where you can lock into, because it occurs to me if there's a, you know, 49-pound child in one chair, and then a 40-pound child on the other side. Would one side be for an able-bodied child, one side for a wheelchair, or?
Yeah, so in this structure, that's been how it's designed, is that one has that track. I will look into if there's a point where you can kind of wheel closer or farther and lock into a track at different points, because that is a very valid concern with the weight of a wheelchair. Will that kind of just whip down that section and make it possible for a few kids to kind of seesaw the other side and then making them kind of feel left out on the play structure. So that's something that I'll definitely have to research on those 3 points.
We have two thumbs up for seesaws and carousels. Shaylee says, things our kid has enjoyed, seesaw and carousel. It provides her sensory input of getting wind in her hair, which she loves. And these are also great options to enable play with other children in a lower pressure way. And Jessica says, the roofed carousel and accessible seesaw seem great for kids of all abilities to play together. How would the Nest Orb be used by kids who are less mobile or depend on mobility aids?
That's a great question, and that's kind of what I'm trying to ask here is like, what is structure like this work for people who have issues transferring in, like there's no transfer platform, it's a little tight and a little tricky. So I'm wondering if a structure like this would actually work. Seems like there's a few pinch points on a structure like this that might make it a little bit hard.
On which structure?
The orb with netting that kind of goes around, and there's a platform in the bottom that a kid can climb into the board and sit back here.
And they have to independently climb.
Yeah, and there's no like transfer platform, so it does make it a little hard to do that kind of thing. Louisa.
Yep. Jen online says, my life skills kid chimed in to say that her class likes the structure in the picture behind the spinning bowl. The rear playground has that large spinning ring that they like, and they like to all pile on and have someone spin them and they all fall off laughing.
So just to let people understand, that we have this in our top lot.
Yep, so that is in the top line.
Yeah, the frame.
There's also one,
Here we go.
just one question. Now, I've been on a carousel where you push and pull the bar to make it move around. How does it move?
This is by kids on the external sides grabbing onto the bar and spinning it themselves. So it's kind of a cooperative thing where you can't play on the structure by yourself. You kind of need to cooperate with other kids to have some.
It's not like a push pull.
No, it's not like a push pull. It's like a kid will run in a circle and kind of hold onto the bar. And once they've reached the speed they decide if they can either jump onto a carousel or let the boat pull.
And then Becky online says the Nest Orb has been a great community building element, and it appeals to a lot of ages and allows for kids to work cooperatively. Samantha Steiner says, I think the carousel allows for the cooperative spinning play in a more accessible way than the Nest Orb personally.
Okay.
speak about what went wrong with the carousel at our destination? Like, cause I'm a big fan of the carousel, but like, I know that it's out of use right now, isn't it?
This is Louisa. I think you're asking about the carousel where a child can wheel in and then it spins around. I didn't know it was out of use. I know that when it was first put in, there were some problems with it. We had to get it fixed, but to our knowledge, I didn't know that it was out of use.
I thought someone got hurt and they had to make it out of use. I don't know why, but that was the last update I had heard.
Okay, we'll look into that. This is the first of us hearing it, but, maybe you can definitely know some more, so we'll speak to that and figure out what's wrong.
I just seen my caution tape on it one day, and I
Oh,
was just like, I thought I heard that people were using it on sleep.
Okay.
People, unfortunately, with all of our playgrounds, we can't stop humans from being human. And so, you know, we'll get folks who say, my child fell off at the Lincoln Park, and it's a structure that's for for 5 to 12-year-olds, and the child is 3. There's a lot of not appropriate use. And unfortunately, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it.
At this one, but it sounds like.
Well, I mean, other than having like a monitor who's at the playground, humans are going to be humans, and, you know, it's difficult, but it is important for us to find the most durable, unbreakable things, obviously. But they'll still get broken. We can't have nice things.
It's like, do we order it up?
So also maybe that you'll figure out what happened with that one, and if it has been an issue with repairs or maintainability, then probably try and find a different product or something that would work better for all of us.
And Jessica Online has her fingers crossed in the hopes that we can meld the nest orb and the roofed carousel into one super cool structure.
We're on it.
An orb carousel.
Any other comments before we move on to the next? Nope. All right, so we're going off the slides now.
Great.
So with slides, it's, we kind of touched on spiral versus straight slides, in our previous conversation, but a lot of the different elements in these slides are, there's an embankment slide. So again, you kind of use ramps to get up to this higher platform in which you can take a slide, down to the lower level. There's also slides that instead of it being metal or plastic, have rollers on them. So it's kind of more of a conveyor belt. If you can kind of picture that. We also had another image of the Healy structure showing spiral slides, which we talked about. There are also a few different types of transfer platforms that we're looking at. Some that are built into the slide where it becomes wider, but it's not a separated zone, so kids could possibly pile up in that slide. And so I was wondering if there's any concerns there. There's another transfer platform where there's a bar in between them, and I wonder how much that kind of prevents kids from using it. And then there's just our kind of standard transfer platform where it's just a L-shaped slide where that big smaller portion of that L extends out, and it allows the kids to kind of pull themselves up for the side and get that on their wheelchair. So thoughts about these different slides? Yes.
Fiona, I think, with the roller slides, I've seen them work well, and we do like, there's sensations, or just something that's not as rough, like taller slides, the only concern that I would have is that sometimes I see that over time, the rollers don't move as well, so unless they have like more of a maintenance or upkeep, sometimes it may not work as well, which would defeat the purpose of having it there, so I think there's either a way to prevent it, or just like another option, because I think there could be some sort of difficulty, like keeping it functioning all over time, because sometimes they just don't turn as well.
Right.
After being in use for a while, so sometimes that can be a problem.
Have you used roller slides before? My question is like,
Yeah. They
you
eat
get
your fingers. Yeah, they eat children's fingers.
Yes.
They're not allowed to go on Robbins Farm Park because you always get hurt on them. Yeah, there's one at Robbins Farm Park in Arlington, and it eats children's fingers.
and this is why we're having a conversation. Has anyone else had any experience with these slides? Any successes, any?
For us, they haven't worked because they're noisy.
Okay.
They're very good.
It sounds like the maintenance issue is a glaring flag here.
But, very, beneficial for kids with smoke-wear implants.
Okay.
Yeah, I started.
Oh.
Voice the step. I started from the
Right.
elastic swing,
Okay.
but it hasn't been an issue for us.
Metals, sorry, here, one quick question. Metal slides, they don't have that static issue?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'll look into that, but that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's
that I
actually
like.
the purpose of roller slides. I
Okay.
don't even select for that. That's why there aren't any inclusive programs.
Interesting. I thought it was more for, ease of sliding down, if you could like use your legs kind of swoosh kind of down the slide.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But there's also that surgery for making it very. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Very good.
Yeah, but I was just curious, since I'm not looking at the actual slides, I've seen some in Hungary where and I haven't been on a slide, like a kid slide well, I'm too big. But anyway, do they come up with like a curved smooth wall, like just enough to keep them from falling off, like 3 or 6 or 8 inches?
Exactly, it's that 3 to 6 inch wall on either side.
And it's a
also
smooth
full,
round
and
surface on top.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And then when it comes down, I remember in my childhood that it would gently and then flatten out,
Correct.
right? But you said something about it widens out, so does that mean that the person could scooch over to the side when you get to the bottom?
Yeah, so when they get to the bottom, it's not the rollers anymore, but there's a flat platform, butting up against the slide, that kids can kind of let themselves onto that platform. And then the thought is that they can then get themselves onto their wheelchair while also not competing with flow of kids kind of flying down the slide.
Yep. And another comment from Shaylee Shaw online, that it would be great to have a roller slide in the area, because the slides in the radius of Spring Hill don't have one, but could be wrong. They love the idea of having a wider bottom at the end, similar to what we were just talking about, so that kids who are slower to disembark can scooch over and kids on the top can go. And that there's one across Spalding in Charlestown that is in good shape if there are issues about maintenance.
Can we ask Shaylee, why the roller slide is used in universal and inclusive playgrounds? Do they know?
I know that it's because it's good for children with low muscle tone, and so they don't need as much, or there isn't as much friction because those slides help them slide down.
Oh, I see.
You mentioned something about the cochlear implant, or was that just plastic? Did you have a roller swing? Too loud, right?
Yeah, I thought that was the main purpose, was for the cochlear implant. I didn't even think about the fact that the child was lower tone, that they could slide down easier. I know for us, we did that one time, and you can imagine that would hurt your head a whole lot to go down every roller. I had a question about kind of the transfer platform, and if that was possible on a spiral slide.
Yeah.
I think that could be, I think it's just kind of, like, not fully custom, but finding the right component that has that slide that has kind of transfer platform. I'm just kind of more concerned about the like repetitive twisting motions and kind of.
Yeah.
I remember just myself as a kid getting kind of stuck in the slide, and then kind of having to like wiggle myself around, like be able to continue down, so I'm just wondering.
It's a concern. It's something for us, it's not as accessible as like a straight.
More straight, yeah.
Yeah.
How many little spaces, now you say a spiral slide, so my mind goes 3 spirals?
2.5 to 3 spirals is what the Healy, school is what we're showing in one of the images.
College, or those.
Yep, just reactions to the roller slides online that Samantha doesn't have strong feelings, but it sounds like people have had some negative experiences. There's one at the Universal Playground in Cambridge, and Samantha's kids have had a lot of fun with them. Shaylee's kid has low muscle tone, but she loves the bumpies going down. And let's see. Samantha's saying it's also nice for kids that like that sensory input from the roller slides.
Is there possibly, is it a one-side situation or is there a possibility of multiple sides?
I think from this conversation, I think it sounds like there's maybe multiple slides here and the variety of slides. Yes,
I would say that I don't know if I can find materials and the only reason I have the metal ones is that the front lawn at the moment is in the direct sunlight, so they're pretty hot over time, especially in the summertime where people may be more active outside, it's gonna be like more like nicer weather.
Right.
And I think that would be the only concern because throughout most of the day, like let's say afternoon, it's pretty much in direct sunlight other than the small few foot shadows created by the buildings. So I think either if they were around the shaded area, say they were talking about some sort of shaded area, or if there was like two slide materials or something like that, if there's top of multiple sides, but I think they do get hot over time, which would make them more uncomfortable for anyone who would not expect that.
Definitely, and really highlighting that hot sunny space that is right now. Yes.
Fiona is a future landscape architect.
Yeah, we absolutely have to. Okay.
I have a question because I've never experienced the roller slide. How noisy is it? Because I'm just wondering if like after an hour and a half of recess, how much time you might want to do something.
And just if you're not going to.
I'll reach out to some next architects and they get their experience on it. Maybe I can bring some that before you go. See if I can make it more.
So they have little bearings though. Do you remember when like Minecraft used to have like butt things you used to push along it like a good air though? Like same things.
Like I just sort of just wondering like on the like to the size of the
Especially with the budding.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Very. A lot.
But they have like bearings.
Yeah.
Very valid.
I'm sure one of the people in this room did not admit the bus can find a YouTube recording of the road slide. You can find it in your own.
That we will look into. Any other questions about slides before we move to our next category?
I just want to let folks know it's 7:20 and we have a hard get out of the building at 7:30.
We only have two more categories, and I think one of them is definitely kind of priority to talk about. So the other type of structures is the kind of post and platform ramping structures. There's also a lot of different net structures, and these net structures can be incorporated kind of on the ground level, kind of as ropes courses. They can also go out different levels. There's also this product made by Compan called the Volo that has kind of this soft bridge structure that spirals all the way up to get you up to the bridge. With two different slides coming out of it, that slide that we saw in the first option that has a semi transport platform incorporated in it, as well as shade incorporated. A lot of these ropes structures are very ropes coursey, very kind of swinging from one element to the other. So I do wonder kind of how successful these would be in our playground and what we can learn from these rope structures and how we can make them better to fit the inclusivity aspect of this playground.
You've got some initial excitement from Jessica online, that they're really cool.
Anyone in particular, Jessica?
The net climbing foam thin, is that also a, it looks like it.
It looks like it does. Yeah.
Yes.
Wrap it around and then let it go.
They can spin.
Okay.
We could also weld it.
Oh.
Not allow it to spin.
Oh.
That's that.
It seems fun, it seems like that is your hybrid of your carousel and your orb.
Right, very much so. So yes, this could be a wonderful option that we can kind of incorporate. And this is again, like one of those small round elements that we can kind of put in a bunch of different toys on the playground.
Jessica likes the bottom right and the bottom left images.
I remember.
Will there be any signage that could be, braille or languages?
Yes. definitely, that is something we can, again, kind of like those, sensory panels that we can incorporate on playgrounds. Those type of elements are easy to.
Yeah, nice example here where it says swing in big letters, but then it has correct underneath.
Okay, that is something we could easily incorporate, into our designs. Also, I know kind of different, boarding place colorings, making sure that people who are, colorblind and other, just picking the right colors that kind of alert you, like this is a swing area, like be careful when you're walking in here, you might get hit by a swing versus like this is kind of a peaceful area to be out of. Yes.
I know, the bottom left and bottom right we're talking about, I think that'd be good for not only because I can think through elements that are kind of like netting and other, like in different levels, I think would be good for different age groups and better accessibility. They've also have mentioned some ramps, which would be good for people with different accessibilities, plus different age groups with various different heights included. So I think both of those could be pretty good options for kind of all around since the lot is really quite through
Right. Grade. Yes, I think those are great ideas. Estella, I think it might be helpful if you can just highlight where the ramp is, like in this net structure, you can see that it goes directly up the slide. So this is kind of a hard ramp structure, whereas this ramp structure is kind of, there's hard ramp elements to it, it kind of spirals around, but there's also some kind of like jungle gym elements where you might have to kind of balance between two ropes or something. Sorry, in the left hand one, it
This
just
one?
kind of spirals up. So you see how there's a slide at the mid level and then a slide up at the higher level. So that's kind of a little less straightforward versus like just a ramp that goes straight up the slide and then down and then netting structures that kind of follow that ramp on either side.
Right. And there's a comment online that some of the net structures don't allow for caregivers to help kids if they get in tricky situations or if they get trapped. So just to always keep caregivers in mind.
Yes, that we can do. Any other questions, comments?
This is general for the advocates and parents, but like, do these take up more room than they're really worth a lot of the time in terms of, you know, what you get, bang for your buck? You know, the rope, these type of rope things, and you have to. Seems like there's no way to get up there to do the slide without climbing up, so that kind of moves out.
On which one?
Like a rope climbing structure or platform slide.
Yeah, on the left-hand side of the top right, yes, it is kind of more of a rope structure to get up versus the bottom right-hand one has the like visible ramp that brings you straight up.
Yeah.
You could kind of
Yeah,
see like
Right.
the zones that the safety zones that they require, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they can overlap, sometimes they can't, but that's a good point of like the balance of product versus like things that can be integrated together and
It's
closer
based
together.
on height, right, all wrong, so like if you get something that's tall, then it's gonna take up all our room
Well, the height determines the depth of boarding place. The fall zone is always either 6 or 8 feet, depending on the use of the play structure. So it's really just the depth of the boarding place. Some of these rope structures are nice because they're pretty condensed. Like they take up a little bit of space versus some of the posting platform structures do kind of take up a little bit more space. And they can't be as like biomorphic or sinuous where they can kind of take up a little bit less space.
Yeah, no, I'm just not gonna have excitement about it.
The things that take up the most space are swings because
Ian said that he liked the bottom, the nets in the blue, because, a lot of kids could play at once and they wouldn't be running into each other. So there'd be lots of options for many kids to play it at once without being too crowded and just, anecdotally, I feel like the Kennedy kids are very good at climbing after their years on the top lot, with their climbing structure.
That is something that they feel like they miss. It's different. And then I think we should probably move on to the last one, which is fitness and balance. So this kind of goes back to the monkey bar question that we were saying for, it might actually be helpful if we've done.
Yeah, I just thought I could see it on the screen.
John, can I ask you a question? Are we
Yes.
going to be kicked out or?
That's what Ronnie told me, but who's gonna kick us out?
Okay.
You run this building.
I think we're the only,
You're
I
trying to get us to buy.
think we are the only seat.
Okay, okay. I want to make sure that we're, okay.
I think this is a good deal, but.
So there's kind of a bunch of different ideas in this fitness and balancing section, but kind of we've looked at a few different ground level elements that kids can climb or run against. There's some kind of more jungle gym aspects, like the rope jungle gym. There's also these two kind of more metal structure jungle gyms. The difference between the bottom right jungle gym is that it's kind of an incorporated, you can go from one element to the next and kind of spin between them versus the jungle gym on the left-hand side is more silos. So you have your one element, then the next element, then the next element. The great thing with these kind of jungle gyms is they're highly customizable, but they're pretty easy to create. And so we can make things like these pull-up bars at two different levels where a child in a wheelchair can wheel into kind of one of the pull-up sections. And then there's maybe a higher level. We can do monkey bars that are at two different levels that run parallel to each other. Things like that. And then there's kind of some other ideas, nature-based parkour, balance structures, some more like parkourish elements that have handrails and support, just to ensure that you're gonna be safe when you're kind of traveling through these. So a bunch of different options, but I'd love to kind of hear your opinions on what's been successful. Yeah.
I'm saying both my opinion and Ian's opinion, but, because he was telling me that in second grade, throughout his grade, the monkey bars, so like the bottom right, has been very, very popular. Like it's always been kind of, I know there's two options monkey bars, but that one has more of a friendly appearance as well as having lower levels in that section, so it can be more accessible as well as like, it's very, very popular in the top lot as to have all these, monkey bars. So I think it's just been a popular, feature.
Yes.
All the way, like all around, so I think that's definitely something that would be intriguing for everyone, I guess.
Yeah, we can do that for you.
And I think kind of the balancing structure with handrails, I didn't even realize that was like a possibility.
I was looking at the playground manufacturers and
Yeah.
stumbled upon something like this, and I was like, oh, this is a wonderful idea.
PT equipment, we have some. So
Right.
that's very cool.
Is it like a circle? Kind of like I'm trying to. How
So
big
this
is
is
that?
like platforms that you kind of hop between,
Yeah.
and then this is kind of more of a wave that you climb up. I think some in the back, I saw a few other pictures, this might have not been the best one, but there's some that were on springs. So it's kind of more of like it waves a little bit, and you need to like find your balance on the structure that kind of rocks back and forth.
Never seen that. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
it's interesting.
Yep, Jessica agrees that the balancing structure looks like it could be a great use during school PT sessions too.
Any other comments, concerns, any
Well,
balancing?
I will comment that I know in the past, kids have asked for a climbing wall, that's like a big thing, and I will say that our admin does not want to climb the wall. Because as it is without any climbing structures, they try to scale the fence anyway.
Right.
So, but I will say just from a kid point, it has been brought up a lot, that they would like a climbing wall. They also want a petting zoo.
Yeah, I have heard the petting zoo a lot, and
We have those with
we
unicorns.
do want goats to mow our lawns, so maybe we can do a
Yeah.
little combination.
Yeah,
too.
like, yeah.
Harriet?
Just interesting. I know I worked at a Quaker camp some years back, and instead of a climbing wall, they had kind of like a spider web, which could be not too steep up, but the point being, I don't know if it take up too much room, but the thing is much more malleable than a wall.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's safer or less safe, but it seemed pretty good for the kids that I was working with.
Right.
Carrie, we have something similar to that in our tot lot. It's like a star spider web kind of thingy, that was talked about that, yes, our kids are all over it and they do like to climb to the top and slide down off of the poles. So it is definitely very fun.
It just seems less of a scary thing than a true climbing wall, even though I had a roommate who built one that my daughter used to use when she was 4.
Jessica, do you know if it's a climbing wall versus a bouldering section? If there is.
I think either. They are not very specific about.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of like, especially on the Sartwell Avenue side where it is just all cement, if we could like stick those, you know,
Mhm.
and hold things up there, and we were like, and so you can escape faster.
But are you saying that in jest, or are there actually kids who are trying to escape?
Well, they're not trying to escape, but they do like to climb.
Okay,
And
because I know
especially-
that there are kids who will run
Yes.
or.
Yes,
Okay.
but like especially after school, when there are, no monitors, I have seen more than one child, just to see if they can.
Yes,
With
of course.
competition.
Yeah,
Things also like the embankment slopes, those we can incorporate like climbing elements into the slope, so it's separated from the fence. Things like the slanted climbing wall can be standalones that are kind of in the center of the playground, but still trying to provide that climbing element. So maybe we can explore things like that that are kind of separated away from the fence. Any things on that? No?
I know also, this is Louisa, John, there are some needs for people, for the school to line up.
Yes.
So we're really trying to balance all of these things, line up space, outdoor classroom, play space, and elements that will serve everyone. I think it's really important to remember that, play is the way that children grow and learn. And it's not, it's really their job. They learn how to use their bodies that way. They learn how to resolve conflict. So I think, this session has been really helpful for us because we could not know the things that you were telling us. And I am absolutely certain that John and DJ are going to do their best to find some balanced elements that really do encourage play, which involves risk. Kids want to do the risky thing, and that's part of growing and understanding your body. And, for those of us who grew up on the tarmac playgrounds, for better or for worse, people got hurt and continue to get hurt today. Kids will, always test the limits. So I'm wondering if there's any comments online, and then if not, we can go to kind of next steps.
Yeah, Samantha just said, I think I heard elopement come up and would just like to say that kids running away or in the parking lots and roads is a very real concern for kids and families.
Yes, elopement is a concern. That's why we proposed a few different extra entrances to the playground and determined that was not the best option for school safety. So next steps. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I know we talked about shade and these types of elements, they're weather resistant kind of, they more like flags that go over things, and they come in different bright colors. They can be nice because they look sculptural, but obviously they give you sun when it's hard to grow trees or have big enough things that will naturally shade and not deteriorate the surface. But you could, if they were big enough and if you were able to space them, you might be able to say the red tent is where this grade lines up and the blue tent is where that, or it's a meeting space, it's kind of big, it's just a thought. But I do think, for shade, that's really helpful, especially when you talked about the rolling or certain features at different times. The young lady was talking about, just so like, it's like a tent, a section of a tent.
Yeah, and there's also, in a lot of these playground structures, you can also incorporate shade within the structure itself. So kind of exploring all of those different options. We also do want to explore some hard structures so that there's some weather green connection throughout the playground. So a lot of shade is definitely a big crucial element here, as well as drinking water.
Jessica from the chat says, please also consider that while getting hurt is a part of growing, schools do have a duty of care regarding our kids, and elements chosen should reflect an understanding of student population needs and staffing abilities.
Yes, definitely, and that's why we're having good conversations with the school administration. So next steps, speaking about school administration, so we're going to continue to have our conversations with our school admin staff to make sure that this playground is aligned with their needs. The other meetings that we'll be having is, Holly, I'll connect with you, but we'll be coming to a February meeting for the Summit Disability Commission to present on this project and to gather some more input. Probably next week will make an announcement, but our community meeting is slated for the last week of February. That will be a virtual, community meeting like the previous one. And this is all with our hopes of starting construction of this summer in 2026. Obviously, you can find more information about the project on our Somerville's page. If there's any play elements that you are inspired by during your walks or visiting other playgrounds, please feel free to email me some pictures, or contacts or anything, any concerns you guys have. Happy to gather all this information.
I think the intent is to put this slide presentation on Summer Voice.
It's already on Somerville.
Oh, so look at that. So if people that couldn't come tonight are able to look through and have comments, like, these are really helpful for us, especially in the inclusivity part, and especially with kids that have disabilities that are seen or not seen, like, it really helps us to target and meet everybody's needs. So feel free to pass this around to let people know the Summer Voice page is there. Yes.
What is the design finalized?
So at our next community meeting, we'll be presenting so at our last community meeting, we presented 3 schematic designs, broad array of different design options. Now we're going to take those 3 schematic designs and make one preferred design. This community meeting will be a truth check of that community design. If we kind of meet all the marks, and feel like this is the right direction of that design, we're gonna take that design and make any tweaks that we hear from that community meeting, and then start construction drawings, putting the project out to bid. It might be a multi-phase approach, but more information on the schedule, kind of once we dive into those bid drawings. Any other questions?
No problem, but thank you so much for that, really.
I really appreciate you guys.
Everyone online.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, everyone.
And I'd say a fairly successful first ever meeting would be so.
Yeah.
First ever.
We do a lot of Zoom meetings, but the hybrid thing always requires another person to do technology, and
Right.
sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but I think we hit it. I think we hit the mark on getting people to be able to participate. Stella was